It's all about taking damage and loving it on this week's edition of Spellweaver Deck Tech.
Toss the bucket.
Welcome to another edition of Spellweaver Deck Tech. In this episode, we'll be looking at the Corruption Hero with a deck that primarily centers around Dark Portal and the Succubus. This deck was brought to my attention by a fellow streamer who goes by the name iTheft. You can check out his streaming details in the description below as well as up on the screen. He's an absolute master at playing this deck and a really fun stream to watch, so I encourage you to check him out. As you can see from the deck list over on the right, this is a very small deck comprised primarily of demons, some removal spells, the artifact Dark Portal, and some shrines. So let's go ahead and look at some of the key cards that make this deck what it is. Starting from the bottom and working our way up, you can see that the deck runs 20 Corruption Shrines and 4 Sanctum of the Void for a total of 24. Why 4 Sanctum of the Void? It's more for consistency, and it allows you to sacrifice an enemy creature and gain 2 life. You're going to need that life because of the artifact that is the cornerstone of this deck, the Dark Portal. So let's take a look at the Dark Portal. As you can read in the card description, demon cards cost you 1 less mana to play per Dark Portal on the board. Well, that's great, you say. You can play all 3 Dark Portals and your demons are basically free, right? That is true. However, there's a catch. The second part of the Dark Portal and why you need that life gain is because every turn, Dark Portal gains 1 energy. Every turn, you lose life equal to the energy of the Dark Portal. If you've got 3 Dark Portals on the board, you're going to kill yourself in about 2 turns. The recommended rate for Dark Portal is 1, maybe 2 if you have cards in hand, so keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at the spells in this deck. There are 14 spells consisting of 4 Noxious Fumes for removal, 4 Words of Pain for life gain and card draw, 4 Reanimates, primarily used to bring out the Succubus, or to bring back the Succubus and the Bloodwitch Harpy, and 2 Infernal Tributes to keep that enemy's board clear. While keeping your opponent's board clear, you will have a choice of 5 different creatures, all of which are demons with the exception of the Plague Vermin, which we'll talk about first. This is simply there for early presence on the board. You can sacrifice it to remove 1 attack and 1 health, sometimes killing your opponent's creature. And it's also there to feed the Bloodwitch Harpy, because this is a level 1 creature. The other level 1 creature that is here is the Infernal Vulture. You're probably familiar with the Infernal Vulture and the fact that when you play it, you can decay 4 cards from either hero. And you can select cards from either graveyard and pay 1 mana per card to buff up the Infernal Vulture. A lot of decks center around bringing these vultures up really big and doing a lot of damage. In this deck, that is not necessarily the case because it is here to feed the Bloodwitch Harpy. The Bloodwitch Harpy, which is one of the key cards in this deck, allows you to sacrifice, both you and the enemy hero, sacrifice a level 1 creature. If that level 1 creature is sacrificed, you get 1 extra mana. So now we have a mana ramp-up mechanic with the Bloodwitch Harpy, along with the Dark Portal, which allows us to reduce the cost of our mana. So the interesting aspect of this deck that you should take away is the shrines themselves. You are going to need to bring up your level a lot more than your mana. So keeping that in mind, you really only need to get to level 3 with your shrines, and then you can stack mana. As you stack mana, keep in mind your demons cost less, and if you have level 1 creatures on the board, your Bloodwitch Harpy is giving you an extra mana, and you can see where this deck snowballs into a win condition very quickly. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Spellweaver Deck Tech. That is it. That's the entire deck, and that's how it's played. Now, I will say that it's going to take some practice because the mechanics are a little different than you may be used to, but stick with it, and I'm sure you will find this deck very fun to play. As always, if you have any deck ideas, don't hesitate to let me know. Send me a line with the deck list, how it works, and maybe I'll feature you on another episode of Spellweaver Deck Tech. Until then, keep watching, and I'll see you on the boards.
Ready.